Hello, my name's Olorotimi Osha. Today is July the 24th, 2026. It's barely a week into the release of Christopher Nolan's reenactment of Homer's epic, The Odyssey, and it's raked in over $303 million already. It has surpassed its $250 million budget. So, no doubt it's a great financial success. But again, the reviews are coming in, they're mixed. I'm a fan of the book, The Odyssey, and so I've been doing these videos just describing, narrating the books, and discussing some things that the movie left out. Now, again, it's very important. I can't say it enough that the salient point of the Odyssey, which is considered the greatest of the Greek epics, right? It's the greatest of the Greek classics. That's saying a lot. That's the Odyssey because it channels, it completely captures Greek zeitgeist, right? Greek zeitgeist. Now, Greek zeitgeist. When I say Greek zeitgeist, the identity, what makes them Greek, what people know the Greeks for, and how they see themselves as well. Greeks are known for their intelligence, wisdom, and the Odyssey captures this. In addition to other elements that are distinctly culturally Greek. With respect to intelligence, there's something that I wanted to quickly capture. Very important, right? I've done a video discussing the classics. And so the Greeks, again, they're the foundation of Western civilization, right? After the Greeks, the Romans who conquered them then would continue with the Greek wisdom, their love of learning, and their laws and their ideas on government, which our founding fathers, by the way, they studied and embraced, incorporated in our system of government, right? Republic, democracy, those things come from the Greeks, right? Those things come from the Greeks. Um, and also, you see, the Greeks also significantly influenced Christianity, right? It influenced Christianity, and I'm going to show evidence of how other nations viewed the Greeks as a people who loved intelligence, who loved wisdom. I'm going to look into the Bible, right? Um, on Sundays, I normally like to discuss scripture. I'm not doing that today, but just to show you how other nations, other cultures as well, viewed the Greeks. I'm quoting from Apostle Paul, who was writing in Greek, and I'm going to be quoting First Corinthians, chapter 1, verse 22, very quickly, just a portion of it. Okay, let me see. So it says, okay, I'll start from here. It says, for Jews demand signs, and Greeks pursue wisdom and philosophy, right? So you see it right there. This is Apostle Paul talking in First Corinthians chapter 1, verse 22. By the way, Corinth, right? Corinth is a Greek city. It was a Greek city then. It's still a Greek, it's a city in Greece today, Corinth. So importantly, all the books in the New Testament, the 27 books in the New Testament, right? The Gospels and Paul's epistles and whatnot, and so on and so forth, they're all written in Greek. They were written in Greek in the original, right? And so Paul also wrote in Greek. Let me give you just quick, trivia, quick points in case you didn't know, and some people probably know. So the name Jesus Christ is actually Greek, right? It's Greek. Christ wasn't the last name of Jesus. And so Christ is like a title. Christ is Greek. It means Christos. It means the anointed one. In Hebrew, it's the Greek equivalent of the Hebrew Messiah, right? Of course, so Christ was viewed as the Messiah, and of course the Greek. So just the authors of the Bible, the people who translated the Bible and collated it, they decided that in references to Jesus, they should make his name unique and distinct and separate him from the other Joshua. So Jesus' name was actually, his Hebrew name was actually Joshua. So while he was alive, he was known as Joshua, right? Or Yeshua. And of course, we know there's a Joshua in the Old Testament, right? Joshua was the assistant of Moses, and he succeeded Moses in leading the children of Israel into the promised land. So there was a Joshua there. So in the New Testament, after Jesus, the Messiah, the authors of the Bible, those who translated the Bible, from its Greek, they decided to, just distinguish so that people would know that, they're referring to Jesus, right? So they gave him the Greek name, Jesus, and then with the Greek title for Messiah, meaning the anointed one, Christos. So that's Jesus Christ. And if you notice in the Gospels, or anytime they're referring in the New Testament, anytime they're referring to words of Christ, when Jesus is speaking, right, when he's the speaker, the ink is in red, right? The type is the script is in red, as opposed to the black letters, right? So I thought that was interesting. Now let me also look just to show you, because I've read here from the First Corinthians chapter 1 verse 22, where it says Greeks pursue wisdom and philosophy, right? So this is what a Jewish man saw of the Greeks, right? This is important with respect to Greek identity. So somebody else, right? One way that you could tell how you're valued or what you value is how other people see you, right? And so this was a Jewish man writing in the Greek language. That's Paul. He was a scholar writing in the Greek language in a Greek city, that's Corinth. And he was saying that, look, at least he was writing to the Corinthians, right? People of in a Greek city, that is. And he was saying that Greeks pursue wisdom and philosophy. So I want to show you. I'm reading from the thesaurus. Thesaurus is like a dictionary. I'm just going to highlight the several synonyms of wisdom, that word wisdom. So wisdom can mean understanding, right? So there are different roots of wisdom. It can mean understanding. When it's understanding, it means erudition, discernment, sagacity, sound judgment, sapience, right? Wisdom as another root of knowledge. It can mean knowledge, learning, philosophy, scholarship, law. Wisdom also means prudence, right? And it as a root, and then it also means judiciousness, astuteness, circumspection, logic, intelligence. And Odysseus captured all of this, right? And this was very important because this is how the Greeks saw themselves, right? The Greeks saw themselves as a people who liked intelligence, who were wise, who were intelligent. And you can see when we're studying Western civilization, even when we're studying the humanities, when we say the father of history is Herodotus, when we say the fathers of philosophy, we talk about Socrates, Plato, Aristotle. We talk about, when we're talking about mathematics, we go into Pythagoras, all of these, or Euclidean geometry, Euclid, and all of these things. So we know that the Greeks, right, they valued intelligence, right? And Odysseus captures this. This is captured in the Odyssey. So it's a reason why the Odyssey is considered the greatest of the Greek epics, right? It's the greatest. It captures the Greek Zeitgeist, right? And there are also three very important themes the Odyssey captures. Like I said, the intelligence, the wisdom that the Greeks valued. In Odysseus, right? Odysseus was different from the Iliad, like I said. The Iliad, you see Achilles, who's the hero. He manifests just brute force, right? Some kind of sheer rage, physical prowess, right? He's the strongest, fastest, bravest, and he's got this mercurial temper, right? He's got this, he has these outbursts and all that, not demonstrating judiciousness like Odysseus does, right? So Odysseus has, you see, all the synonyms I just read out, right? Judiciousness, Odysseus demonstrates this. So you see when the goddess, his patron god, who is god of wisdom and strategic warfare, god of war, that's Athena, who's daughter of Zeus, right? She calls him, she praises him, she calls him Odysseus of the nimble wit. So he's very clever, and we see it in his interaction, in how he outwitted the Cyclops Polyphemus when he lies to him that his name was nobody, and he gets him drunk with wine, and eventually they blind him with the giant stake in his eye, and they deceive him. They get him to, because they know he's, because he'd covered the cave, he'd secured, barricaded the cave with a huge rock, and they couldn't carry. They would die in there if they killed him in there, because he couldn't move the rock. But they knew he had to get out since he was blinded, and they strapped themselves under his sheep, right? And so they could escape. So Odysseus was ingenious, was very clever. And the adaptability in the Odyssey, you see the adaptability of Odysseus, or he's wearing a disguise, and he's being patient when he's disguised by Athena, when he goes back, right? And he's patient. So all of these things, the craftiness, the cunning, intelligence, it's called metis, by the way. Metis, the Greeks called it metis. So those three things, the cunning intelligence, right, in the Odyssey of Odysseus, right? And there's also the theme of xenia, right? Xenia was the law of hospitality that Greeks owed strangers, which was overseen by Zeus himself. You see, that was what started the whole Trojan War, when Paris, the son of the king of Troy, Priam, insulted the hospitality of Menelaus when he elopes with his wife, right, Helen of Troy. That triggered the whole Trojan War in the first place. And we see the Cyclops as well. He denigrates the law. He doesn't show Odysseus, who expects hospitality, because they could have left when they ate the Cyclops food, but Odysseus was like, no, that the owner of the cave owes them hospitality, so let them go and sit down and wait for him. But instead he traps them in, and he eats the men, some of Odysseus's men. So by the law of xenia, that's hospitality, friendship with strangers or guests, that was violated, right? So that's another important theme. It's part of Greek Zeitgeist, ancient Greek Zeitgeist, right? And then the last is nostos, right? You see, that's what Odysseus was pining for, the homecoming. Odysseus wanted to return to his roots, his identity, even though he was offered immortality by Calypso, a goddess, right? And he would never grow old. There was another, the Phaeacians as well, the rich kingdom of the Phaeacians. They offered him their daughter in marriage, and that he would, succeed the king and become king of a very wealthy land. But no, there was this Greek notion of this Greek value of nostos, that your identity is in your own native soil, your own homeland, and you share this common civic engagement with in community with the friends of your childhood, and your family, your community. And this is what Odysseus was pining for. This is what he was longing for, yearning for throughout, and he was trying to get home despite the 10-year wandering, right? So those are three important themes that make up classical Greek Zeitgeist, right? The metis, that's cunning intelligence, which Odysseus demonstrated, right? And he was crafty. The Greeks valued that craftiness, and you see how adaptable he was. He thought very quickly on his toes. I remember there was a writer, very intelligent writer, who once told me that a sign of a highly intelligent person is the ability to adapt, right? Being adaptable. And you see this in Odysseus. He's always thinking on his feet, on his toes, right? He thinks on his feet. He's always 2 steps ahead. Any short new circumstance, he adjusts, he adapts really quickly. And you see this with his encounter with the Cyclops, right? When he tells the Cyclops that his name was nobody, and he anticipating that, after he'd blinded the Cyclops would be calling out and, he'd be broadcasting to his brothers who had the name of the person who had blinded him. But he didn't know Odysseus's name, so he kept saying, nobody has blinded me. So you see, Odysseus is he's a trickster. He's got a crafty, cunning intelligence, and as I said, xenia, that's the hospitality, the law of hospitality, as ordered by Zeus, and also the last thing, nostos, right? The homecoming, right? Returning to one's roots, where one's identity is, one's things that a person treasures in his life, including their family. So that was, I thought I should just highlight those three themes that make up classical Greek zeitgeist, and how it made, the fact that the Odyssey incorporates all those three major themes, and why the Odyssey is considered the greatest of the Greek epics. And also, apart from the homecoming and these other values, there was also the adventurism, right? The archaic, ancient Greek adventurism, right? In the maritime, in the adventures on the sea, right? So, in the golden age of the Greeks, right, they were great commercial, they were great traders. They had colonies, right, in different places. They had actually established some colonies on the Roman Peninsula, right? If anybody recalls the Pyrrhic victory, the issue, I've done a video discussing that. The Greeks were going to fight the Romans. We're going to fight the Romans to secure some of the colonies that they had on the Italian peninsula, and this was because of the adventurous traders that the Greeks had established, were establishing along the Mediterranean. I think they had, I think, Sicily. They had colonies, I think, in Sicily, in Sardinia, in a number of places, coastal areas, right? I think the early Etruscans, on the Latin peninsula, right, had actually been Greek as well. So don't quote me on that. But in any event, the maritime adventurism that Odysseus and his men were engaged in, being lost at sea, it resonates. It matches the Greek appreciation for adventure, right? And that's all part of Greek zeitgeist, right? And but most importantly, in the person of Odysseus himself, his cunning intelligence, right? His ability to use this deception, right? Disguise, and to be adaptable. That all resonates with classical Greek identity, Greek zeitgeist. My name is Olurotimi Osha. I hope this was helpful. I will keep you posted. Thank you.